Alrighty, so quick little tutorial for you guys all. We're going to talk about printing and specifically what we call 4-up printing. So firstly, obviously we can print lots of different items as a single sheet. You don't have to have things printed 4-up like this, but when you are doing something like a memo pad, which is your assignment that you're working on now, or if you had some postcards, for example, like we just had our open house and we wanted to have 4 of these cards on the same page. So really quickly, I would start a new document. Now, I will say that I'm working in a program called Adobe InDesign. So Adobe InDesign is a great little layout program. It can be used by people for a number of different activities and projects, but specifically it is a page layout software. So it is designed to help you compile various different documents into one specific source. I'm going to make a new file here. It will bring up a lovely window like that. Because we are doing a print project, you can click on the print section. It does have some like standardized pieces of paper, if you will, some standardized designs. So this would be standard 8.5 by 11 letterhead. If you switch your units to inches, you can see a little bit better what's going on. Legal would be 8.5 by 14, and then tabloid is kind of a standard 11 by 17 size paper. Okay, so we want letterhead paper for today. Because I know that my cards that I'm going to be using as a demo are landscape, they fit better as an orientation of landscape, I'm going to use the landscape orientation. If you were doing a portrait style memo pad, you would obviously go with a portrait style page. So most of the rest of this is all pretty standardized. If I had a multi-page document, so in this case I actually need 2 pages, so I might as well put those in there. If I wanted to have specific columns, margins, bleed and slug is how much extra page there is, so that if you wanted to print right color to the edge of the page, you'd be able to print that by adding some bleed and slug. Now, not every printer can print past the edge of the page or to the edge of the page, but you want to make sure that if that option is needed, you have those options right there for you. I'm going to hit create. That's going to bring me into my window here. It allows me to set up my document. Again, by default, it goes to picas, which is a standardized print measurement. If you want it in inches, you simply have to right-click on the ruler and select inches. Now, if your design doesn't have a ruler around it, it is in the view settings. Oh, wait, excuse me. It is in the window settings. Oh, it is. Yeah, it should have been in the... Uh-oh, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. It's because it's already on, sorry. If I go to view, I can say show rulers, and there it is, right? So that helps me a lot when I'm doing any kind of design work, know exactly where my, where the best location to put things is, because I can bring in panels and bars from the side here. This one I brought in at 5.5. This gives me a center line. If I bring in another ruler from the top here, oh, I haven't changed this to inches. I can set this to be 4.25 inches, right? Simple math on 8.5 by 11. Half of 8.5 is 4.25, right? So this gives us 4 little sections for us to place our images into. I'm going to try and move myself. Can I move to a different oh, well, full screen. That's lovely. Not helpful, though. No. All right. I'm kind of in the way, in the corner here of this properties panel. I'm going to see if I can pull this down a little bit. Put this properties panel in here, because I know that I'm going to need that, and I also need pages. There we go. Now we're not hiding anything in the corner of the screen. So you can see that I have 2 different pages here. I want to place one of those designs from my pre-created memo pad. I didn't even make the design. I just have the design to access. So I'm going to go File. I am going to place the image that I want into the folder. Specifically, I know that it is this interest or career technology. This happens to be the file name. When I select that file that I want to import, it is a multi-page document. You must check the box that says Show Import Options. If you do not check the box that shows Import Options, you will only get the first page over and over and over. It will always do the first page. Okay? In the case of a one-page document, obviously it doesn't matter, but in a multi-page document like this one is, where there's a front and a back, it's very important you select Show Import Options. When I hit OK, it will now bring up a secondary pop-up window, and it will allow me to select, do I want which page? Page 1, page 2, do I want all the pages, do I want a range of pages, right? In this case, we're going to start with page 1, I'm going to select OK. It will allow me to place, so this kind of object placer tool pops up, and I can place it in the corner here. Now it happens to be that this is the exact size that I need for a quarter of a page. It was the image was designed correctly. Now, if I'm going to just go back here. If I chose to place it as a smaller size, I could click and drag and place it in as a smaller size. I could also place it anywhere on the page and move it over to that corner location. Now, a little trick for making copies, you could do Control Copy, or Control C, excuse me, and Control V, so I could Control C, Control V, it makes a copy, right? I could also hold the Alt key on the keyboard, and my cursor will change to this double arrowed cursor, and if I hold that, it allows me to actually just drag out a copy of that exact design, and I can do it again if I want to. I can just keep dragging out copies, right? In the case of something like this, where you've got a multi-item copy, you can actually select both of these two items at the same time. So you can do it one way is to just kind of click and drag and use your selection to grab that, or you can select the first one, hold Shift, select the second one, it will now create a double selection, and then again I can use the Alt key or the copy and paste to copy and paste. Okay, so I now have my 4 front page items. If you look close, these items actually are a little bit on the blurry side. They're very pixelated, something's going on. I know that this document is actually quite high quality, so what I need to check is my view settings. So in my view, my display performance, I need to set this display performance to high quality display. When I do that, all of a sudden it's going to bring in the original quality, the higher quality. Now, it's still not perfect, but I've zoomed into 600%. So a little bit of pixelation at 600% is no problem, right? Back to 100%, nice, clean, crisp design. Okay? It's only a quarter of a page, so it's not super huge. But if you're looking, when you bring in your design, if it's all pixelated and gross looking, it's probably because of those display performance settings are set to typical or to fast is even lower quality. If you were working with a 100-page book, you probably wouldn't want it in high quality all the time because it's definitely going to give you slower performance on your computer. But in our case, we're good to go. We've got only one design we're working with, and it should be super simple. Now, if I go to my pages over here, I have a second page. I can either double-click on that second page to go down to it, or I can simply just scroll down, and it will show up further down. Okay. Once I've selected that page, Control-0 will center and full screen your design. It's kind of a nice shortcut. It works the same way if I was to zoom in on one of these and be like, oh, what have I done? Control-0, I get back to a full screen view, and I am able to continue moving with my design. So we're going to double click on here. This time I'm not going to bring in those borders. I'm just going to go File, Place, and I am going to, again, click the same document, hit OK. But this time we want page 2 of that document, hit OK. It gives me the same placement tool. When I place this in here, and then I go back to my selection tool, I can now obviously move this card wherever I want. As I move it across, assuming the settings are set correctly, you'll notice this pink line shows up as I move towards the center. That's telling me that my design is now on the center edge, and then if I go all the way to the top, I've now gotten it in that upper right-hand quadrant. So then I can just do my standard Alt copy, whoopsies. We're going to Alt copy and place that where we want it. And I grab both of these, Alt copy, and place them on the bottom. And if you notice, when I bring it down to the bottom here, it gives me this pink line that shows up that I've properly centered this image. Now, at this point, you have a couple options. You can print it straight out of InDesign. There are some positives to that. There's also some quirks to that. My advice would be to go File, Export, and export this as a new PDF, right? So I'm going to call this 4-up Comtech card. You would obviously label yours however you want. I need a 4, not a number sign. 4-up Comtech card. I'm going to hit Save on that card. These defaults, by default, InDesign always defaults to the high quality print settings. You aren't going to want to change any of those PDF settings from what I can remember. I actually don't think I've ever changed these settings because I always just want the default. The only thing you ever might change is between spreads or pages. If you want a double page document to show up as one piece, you can change it to spreads view, and it will actually take the second and third page and glue them together and make one big wide PDF. Certain times when you're printing, that might be handy, but in this case, we want to export as individual pages. We're going to hit export, and away we go with regards to our document being created. Now I'm going to go find that document in my search here. I know I saved it to my downloads. Here's my 4-up Comtech card. When I pull this up now in Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader, depending on which one you're using, I now have this 2-page document. First page, second page, everything looks good. What the problem is, though, is you need to know the limitations of your printer. Not every printer can print right to the edge of the page. I know that these bottom line where it says photo digital processing on both pages here is really, really tight to the edge of the page, so it may or may not print properly. So I'm going to give up the design element of this red and gray line getting right to the edge in lieu of not accidentally cutting off the tip of the JP logo and likewise not accidentally cutting off these words at the bottom of the page. So when I go to my print settings, I'm going to print this. This happens to be something that I want to print double-sided, so I need to make sure that this checkbox is checked, that I want to print on both sides of the page. I want to flip this on what's called the short edge, because I want to be able to flip this left to right as opposed to like tumbling. I don't want to flip it front to back on the long edge. I want to flip it on the short edge. So I need to select flip on short edge. I'm going to go up to the properties panel here. This is going to open up the printer properties for this printer. Specifically, in our case, we would print this on just plain paper for your memo pads. Last night I printed it on a thicker paper. Where did this pop up? Oh, it was not happy with me for a second. I printed it on a thick cardstock paper, so you would select the type of paper at this point. If you are going to print it on a cardstock for some sort of different project that we might do down the road, when you click on thick, it's going to give you a warning saying you have to use the bypass tray. In this case, we're just going to want plain paper. You need to make sure that your color is set to auto or to color. If you don't set it to one of those two settings, it will default to black and white, and then you will end up with a black and white memo pad, which is fine, but we can afford a little bit of color for everybody to make it just that much nicer for your memo pads. The last thing you need to make sure is that there isn't some weird finishing setting set up, right? We're not printing a booklet. We're not printing a folded situation. What we are printing, however, is a two-sided document. So this needs to be selected here for two-sided printing. Now, it's kind of redundant because if you hit OK, you also see that it's two-sided here. Oh, actually, I needed to push the two-sided one. That is this one on the short edge. Flip on the short edge. Right? So if you notice, it just keeps the setting the same. I've just noticed that sometimes if you click it in one place and not in both, sometimes it does quirky, weird things. But flip on short edge, print on both sides of the page. At this point, obviously, we would just hit print. It's going to send it off to the printer. You go log into the printer and release that print job for you. Now, your memo pads are a single page, so you're just going to hit print. You only want the one page, so if I was printing something that had multiple pages and I only want one page of it, I would select via the pages here which page. So in this case, I may just want the front page. And then I'm going to be able to select however many copies. For your memo pads, I'm asking that you print 30 copies of your memo pads. You'd hit print, and away it goes. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some information as to how to set up your photo prints, how to set up your various different, or excuse me, not your photo prints, your memo pads, how to set it up 4 up on a page and get yourself off to the printer in a quick fashion. I'll do some demos with you guys in person as to how to glue those memo pads and actually create the physical copies, but definitely you need to make sure you've got your 30 copies printed off, everything looks good, show it to me, and we'll move on from there. So, hope that helped learn how to do 4-up printing. I'll be back with, I'm sure, more tutorials in the future.